Thank you for joining News 6 and ClickOrlando.com as we dive into results 2020. I'm Lisa Bell, joined by News 6 political expert Jim Clark. We are halfway through the one and only vice presidential debate, and we are breaking down your questions tonight. What a difference a debate makes. I thought tonight's debate certainly much more civil. We're actually hearing them complete sentences without being interrupted in many cases. Your take on tonight's debate so far?
Well, I think, first of all, it is impossible for any moderator to control politicians. I don't think it can be done. Not as many interruptions tonight, but clearly they both have their little set speeches to give, and they're going to give them no matter what the time limit is.
Yeah, I've been watching a lot of comments online, a lot of people frustrated that they're not answering the questions that the moderator has been asking. Of course, that's what politicians do. That's what they've been practicing to do. They want to talk about what they want to talk about and not necessarily what the questions have be. Of course, as I mentioned, this is the one and only vice presidential debate. This is a historic debate. Both of the candidates, they're 74 years old. Joe Biden is 77. If he were to be elected when he was sworn in January, he would be 78 years old. They would be the oldest person ever elected to the highest office in the land. So this is very important. Has there ever been a more important vice presidential debate?
No, I don't think so. I think that the American people are getting a look at both of these people tonight. Vice President Pence, of course, has been vice president now for 4 years, but we haven't seen much of him. We don't know that much about him. He has kind of been in the shadows. So this is a really good look at him. And the same thing with Senator Harris. She ran for president earlier this year, but flamed out pretty quickly. So for a lot of Americans, this is their first in-depth look at these two candidates.
Of course, the coronavirus once again dominating this like it's dominated much of everything in 2020. The moderator talking about the format for tonight. It is a small, socially distant audience. They are required this time to wear face masks. During the first presidential debate, there were some people in the audience who refused to wear a face mask. There's also plexiglass on the stage, and they are sitting at least 12 feet apart. So that is a little different this time around. Coronavirus, of course, dominating the first part of tonight's debate. And the moderator asking some really tough and I thought good questions. And one of the questions she asked to Vice President Pence is, why is the death toll, when you look at the percentage of the population, higher here in the United States than any other country? And of course, he is leading the coronavirus task force. And so, you know, they both have been having to respond to some pretty tough questions tonight.
Yeah, I'm not sure they've responded, as you point out, to the questions. I think they've come in with set speeches that they've probably practiced, and especially Vice President Pence has been able to turn almost every question almost aside and give an answer to what he wants to say.
You think he's been effective at that? Of course, Kamala Harris trying to point out that this has been a failure, that 210,000 people have died. She pointed to the Bob Woodward interview and the tapes that have been released. And then, of course, the vice president noting that Joe Biden criticized the president for shutting down the country to China in March.
Exactly. The vice president is making the best case he can for the president's reaction and for his reaction. Remember, as you pointed out, he is in charge of the national coronavirus effort. He is in charge of the committee. The president put him in charge. So it's a little bit difficult for him to get away from what has happened.
So I'm reading some of the comments from people who are joining us on Facebook right now. Keep those comments coming. I'm going to be asking Jim Clark all of your comments and questions tonight, as well as ClickOrlando.com. A lot of people are showing some sympathy for the moderator, Susan Page from USA Today, and they're wondering why she cannot cut off their microphones. That was something that was brought up after the first presidential debate as potentially a possibility moving forward.
Well, I think they are still considering that for the presidential debate. I think they assumed this one would be a little bit more civil, as you point out, and did not discuss it at all for this debate. But clearly, both candidates have rambled on beyond their allotted time, getting in their points. So again, I'm not sure any moderator could do better than than Susan Page is doing.
You mentioned that that could be an option for the next presidential debate. Do you think there will be a next presidential debate on October? I believe it's the 15th that it's scheduled for.
Yes, in Miami,
Right.
and that's going to be interesting whether President Trump will go through with it. And I'm not sure anybody knows the answer to that. But if I had to guess, I would imagine there will be a debate. I think that he is behind in the polls and needs to come back. We forget that presidents before have lost the first debate. Ronald Reagan lost his first debate in 1984.
Obama lost his.
Lost his. You're exactly
2012,
right.
yeah.
Running, and there's something about presidents who are running for their second term losing the first debate. They think, oh, hey, I've done this before, been there, done that, and they get overconfident and they don't prepare enough. And then in both cases with Obama and Reagan, they came back very strong in the second debate. So it'll be interesting to see if President Trump is able to do the same thing.
It will be on many factors because obviously we have been hearing different reports from White House staff that the president is in worse health than he may be letting the American people know, that he is more fatigued than he lets on, that he, is short of breath more than we may realize. And so when you are trying to recover from the coronavirus, from people who I've talked to, it takes a while before you get all of your strength back. And so going from recovering from the coronavirus into a presidential debate, if that were to happen, that would certainly be unprecedented and very interesting if he would even want to debate in a week or so.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. And also remember, his key aides who have helped him prepare for the debate, like former New Jersey Governor Christie, are in the hospital.
He's in hospital right now.
And so he's lost much of his support for preparing for a second debate. So, and you're absolutely right. Plus, as a number of people have pointed out, he has been taking a lot of medication, and that can affect people. And so there's so many unknowns about the coronavirus.
The other thing, Joe Biden said he would only debate the president if it were deemed safe. And obviously you would think part of that is the president testing negative for the coronavirus. So a lot of it, I would imagine, would hinge on another coronavirus test.
Right. And who knows whether the former Vice President Biden will follow through with that or whether it's just playing politics. But I think both of them want the event in Miami. Remember, Florida holds the key for Donald Trump. He has to carry Florida to win the White House.
So do you think either of these candidates tonight, after listening to them speak for 45 minutes, are changing anyone's minds?
I think that Senator Harris will now become more of a known quantity. And because people didn't know her, what we found is that the less known candidate, whether it's a Dan Quayle or whoever, if they do reasonably well, are considered to be the winner of the debate because people did not have high expectations for them.
Both of them, though, are really good in a debate, wouldn't you say? I mean, I think that they're both performing pretty well tonight. Obviously, we've seen Mike Pence before. He seems to be very good in debates and deflecting some criticism. And, of course, Kamala Harris is a former prosecutor.
These people have been practicing for this all their lives. Mike Pence was in Congress. He was the
former
governor.
TV news anchor.
Yes, he was. Yes, you're absolutely right. And he was a governor of Indiana. As you point out, Senator Harris was a prosecutor. She's been a U.S. senator, respected lawyer. So these two are primed for debate.
Is that what this is more about anymore, just seeing their personalities and whether you find them likable? Because they both have their points and they both seem to contradict each other and make some good points and some good arguments. So is it just about who do the American people like the most in these debates? I
think a lot of it is that. We want to see what they have to say, how they present themselves, and look at these two people tonight, given the age of their presidential candidates, and say, would these people be ready to step in if something should happen and be president of the United States?
So we did receive some comments on clickorlando.com earlier in the day before the debate started, and I want our producer to put them up so we can see, and I want to have you respond to one of the questions that we received. I believe we're going to start with the one about in the last debate. Let's see. Okay, we're going to do with this one. The coronavirus global... Okay, in the last debate, President Trump spent time debating the moderator. Should moderators be replaced with questions from a focus group representing the public, like a more town hall type setting, which they do have those, or should it just be moderators?
Well, we'll find out. We have a town hall coming up, and so we'll see whether that works better. But again, these are professional politicians. They like to talk. They have their speeches planned out. Both of these candidates have prepped and gone over their speeches with everybody, and they're going to get them in. So I'm not sure it's possible for anybody to control the debates.
It is interesting to see that town hall style because many of the people who are in the audience who ask these questions don't really have the opportunity to follow up. If the politician doesn't answer the question at all or completely starts talking about something else, at least with a moderator, you can kind of try and bring it back to what they were asking and try and control it a little bit more if they are interrupting or going off on a tangent.
Yeah, I think the one advantage of a town hall is that you get some, if you will, oddball questions, and it forces the candidates out of their comfort zone.
Right.
And so you get some unusual responses. So I think from that point of view, I think the town hall is going to be very interesting.
And of course, it's always very entertaining to see how Saturday Night Live follows up with the town hall debate.
It is.
They always seem to have a great take on that. We do have another question that I want to ask you about. The coronavirus global pandemic is on everyone's agenda. Is this administration trying to downplay it after contracting the COVID-19 virus in the White House? And of course, that was one of the first questions that the moderator asked Vice President Mike Pence tonight.
Yeah, and Mike Pence did not answer the question about the White House ceremony for the Supreme Court nominee. It was a pointed question about the White House ceremony, which has become a super spreader event. And if you listen to his answer, he gave a set speech about how great the administration was, but he did not answer the question. Yeah,
the question I believe you're referencing specifically was, how can you expect the American people to follow the safety guidelines when you at the White House do not?
Right.
And he said, well, they were outside, and then moved on to something else.
Right. He did not answer the question.
Of course, we've talked a lot about tonight. The next topic was talking about the vice president and being able to step into that role if need be, and talking about transparency and whether health records should be released. And then Kamala Harris took advantage of that question, saying, yes, not only should health records, but also tax records be released. What did you think of that exchange?
I thought it was excellent. And I also thought Vice President Pence said that the president has been very transparent about his health condition. And clearly we know that he has not been. He has used HIPAA, which is the Privacy Act, which we all can take advantage of, to keep most of his medical history private. So there's so much we don't know about the president's health at this time.
What do you think is going to be the number one issue in this year's election? Will it be the coronavirus? Will it be the economy? Is that the same issue right now?
I think it's all running together. I think that President Trump wanted to put coronavirus in the rearview mirror. He wanted to move on, talk about the economy coming back. All his ads were aimed at that. But now he came down with coronavirus. Many people in the White House have come down with it. It continues to spread in the White House. And so it's become impossible for him to put that behind him. And again, 4 weeks from today, we will know who the president is for the next 4 years.
It is interesting. You and I always seem to talk about polls when we're together. And lately the polls have been widening. Joe Biden has been widening his lead over the president. What do you make about those polls? And certainly Joe Biden went up in the polls after the first presidential debate and after the president's coronavirus diagnosis.
Well, last November 8th, 4 years ago, you and I disagreed about the polls, and you turned out to be right, and I was wrong. This time, the polls say they are better. They have accounted for different things, but still, And I think every American knows this because of spam and everything else. When you see a phone call from some number you don't know,
right,
you don't answer it. And so and people don't have landlines anymore. It has become more and more difficult to poll people.
And they don't always tell the truth when these pollsters call and get a hold of someone. People don't always respond honestly about who they really plan to vote for or what the important issues are to them.
They don't, and that was what happened 4 years ago in Florida. The Democrats thought they were in great shape. The polls seemed to indicate that, and all of a sudden there was this turnout for President Trump. People don't realize that Hillary Clinton got 200,000 more votes in Florida than President Obama. That should be fantastic. But President Trump got 400,000 more than Mitt Romney 4 years earlier.
And a lot of political experts have said part of that was just the energy. His base was so energized. We saw the rallies, we saw the chants, we saw it all. This is a different year. That's not happening anymore.
That's not, and that's going to be interesting to see what happens. There are 67 counties in Florida. We know right now how 62 of them are going to vote. There's no dispute about that. It's going to be about 5 key counties, including Seminole County and Pinellas County, St. Petersburg. Basically, if you're in Seminole County, you get to elect the President of the United States. As Seminole goes, so goes the nation.
Did you hear that? If you're in Seminole County and joining us, you have a lot of weight on your shoulders. All right, we're going to go back and watch the rest of this debate. We thank you so much for joining us. We are streaming the debate online. You can find full election coverage at clickorlando.com.